Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears. That necklace wasn't just similar, it was identical. His late wife, Lily, had worn it every single day for 10 years until the accident took her away 3 winters ago. After the funeral, Ethan had the necklace placed in a velvet box, locked inside a safe. No one else knew its combination. The little girl crossed the road, clutching a small brown teddy with one eye missing. She walked toward a bakery's dumpster, tiptoeing to peek inside. Her tiny fingers rummaged through discarded loaves, shaking off crumbs as if treasure hunting for hope. Ethan's chest tightened. How could Lily's necklace end up here? With her? He followed, steps hesitant but drawn by something deeper than logic. The street hummed with life, honking cars, footsteps, laughter spilling from nearby cafes. Yet for Ethan, everything muted except that delicate clink of silver against the child's collarbone. He cleared his throat softly. "Hey, little one." The girl startled, dropping the bread. Her big brown eyes widened, caught between fear and surprise. "I'm not gonna hurt you," Ethan said, lowering himself to her eye level. "I just wanted to ask about your necklace." She clutched it instantly, protective. "It was my mommy's," she whispered. That word, "mommy," hit him like a quiet storm. Ethan swallowed, voice trembling. "Your mommy's?" She nodded, eyes darting to the ground. "She said it keeps people safe. But she went to heaven. I wear it now." Ethan's throat closed. He stared at the small, fragile chain, the same engraving, the same faint scratch from where Lily's seatbelt buckle once rubbed against it. "Do you remember your mommy's name?" The girl hesitated. Grace. Grace, not Lily. A different name. Yet something inside Ethan refused to release the feeling that fate had just placed this child before him for a reason. He glanced around. No one nearby looked responsible for her. No parent. No guardian. Only shadows and the faint hum of passing lives. "Where do you live?" Ethan asked gently. She pointed toward a narrow alleyway that cut behind the bakery. "There," she said, "with Nana. But Nana's sick. I'm just getting dinner." Ethan's heart cracked a little more. He hadn't stepped into places like that in years, not since he buried his grief beneath glass offices and silent mansions. He used to fund shelters, sponsor schools, talk about compassion like it was currency. But grief had emptied him of it. Until now. "Okay," he said softly, "how about we get you something warm to eat instead of that?" Her eyes widened again, unsure if it was a trick. "You mean real food?" He smiled faintly. "Yeah, real food." They walked together toward the cafe. The child held his sleeve lightly, like she feared he'd vanish if she let go. Ethan noticed her shoes, mismatched, soles worn through. The world had been cruel to her. Inside, warmth wrapped around them, the smell of cinnamon, coffee, and safety. Ethan ordered soup and a pastry. She ate in small, polite bites, as if each spoonful was a gift she might lose. He couldn't look away. That necklace glimmered with every movement. "Grace," he repeated silently. "Lily's necklace." A child who believed it kept her safe. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe not. The girl finally looked up between spoonfuls. "Mister, why are you sad?" Ethan blinked. "What makes you think I'm sad?" "Your eyes," she said. "They look like my Nana's when she prays." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I miss someone too." The girl nodded solemnly. "My mommy said when people we love go to heaven, they send us new people to help us not cry so much." Her words were so innocent, so heavy, they pierced right through the fortress he'd built around his heart. Ethan looked away, blinking fast. "She sounds like a smart lady." She was, the girl whispered, hugging her teddy. She said even sad hearts can help others smile. Something inside him stirred, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. The little girl's voice, her necklace, her kindness despite the hunger, all of it felt like Lily was whispering through her. As they finished their meal, the girl reached across the table and placed her tiny hand over his. "Thank you," she said softly. "No one's this nice in the mall." Ethan's breath hitched. He didn't know it yet, but that one moment, that innocent gratitude, would change everything he thought he knew about loss, fate, and love that never truly dies. The cafe lights dimmed as the evening gave way to night. Outside, Rain began to drizzle softly, streaking the glass with trembling silver lines. Ethan glanced at his watch, realizing he'd been sitting there with the girl for nearly an hour. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked gently. She wiped her mouth with a napkin and smiled shyly. "Ava." "Ava," he repeated, as though tasting the name. "That's a beautiful name." Her small shoulders lifted. "Mommy said it means life." Ethan froze. The universe had a cool sense of poetry. Life, the very thing Lily's absence had taken from him. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Would it be okay if I walk you to your Nana's place?" Ava hesitated, clutching her teddy closer. "You're not a bad man, right?" He smiled, the first real smile in years. "No, Ava, just a man who's been sad for a long time." She studied his face, then nodded. "Okay." They stepped out into the rain. Ethan opened his umbrella and held it above her, but she moved closer anyway, sharing the space as though it were the safest place in the world. The city's neon light shimmered on the wet pavement, reflections of passing cars, a world in motion that had forgotten to care. They turned down a narrow alleyway, its walls scarred with graffiti and stories no one wanted to hear. Halfway through, Ava pointed toward a dimly lit door tucked between dumpsters. "That's home." Ethan stared at the cracked paint, the leaking pipe beside the door, the faint whiff of dampness. "Do you have enough to eat here?" Ava shrugged. "Sometimes. When Nana feels good. Sometimes she coughs a lot, so I get food for us." He looked down at her, small, resilient, braver than most grown men he knew. "And your Nana, she knows you come out alone." "She doesn't like it," Ava admitted. "But if I don't, she can't take her medicine." Ethan exhaled slowly. The necklace glimmered faintly under the alley light. Lily's necklace, shining against this child's fragile chest. He couldn't walk away, not from this, not from her. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded note. "Hey," he said softly. "It's not much, but maybe it can help with food or medicine." Ava stared at the bills like they were magic paper. "That's too much," she whispered. "No," Ethan said. "It's just enough." She shook her head. "Mommy said not to take money from strangers." He smiled gently. "Then let's not be strangers anymore. Deal?" Her lips curved into a shy grin. "Deal." She took the money hesitantly, then suddenly reached up and hugged him. Her arms barely wrapped around his waist, but the warmth hit him like sunlight through clouds. Ethan's eyes closed, his hand resting carefully atop her head. For a moment, he felt Lily again, her perfume, her laughter, the echo of her heart. The door creaked open. A frail voice called, "Ava, is that you? Honey." An elderly woman stood in the doorway, leaning on a cane, her face pale but kind. "You shouldn't be out this late," she murmured, coughing softly. "I brought dinner, Nana." Ava said proudly, "And this man helped me." Ethan smiled, removing his hat politely. "Good evening. I just wanted to make sure she got home safe." The woman's eyes softened. "Thank you, sir. Not many people care to notice anymore." He hesitated, then asked, "May I come by tomorrow? Maybe bring some groceries." Her brow furrowed. "That's kind of you, but we don't take charity." Ethan shook his head. "It's not charity. It's friendship." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, just for Ava's sake." As he walked back to his car, rain splashing against his shoes, Ethan felt something unfamiliar, a quiet stirring in his chest. For the first time in years, the world didn't feel entirely empty. He sat in his car for a long while, watching the light in the small window flicker. He thought about Lily, about how she used to stop for stray cats, donate her coats, feed the hungry. She'd always believed love wasn't meant to stay locked away in memories. It was meant to move, to live, to heal. That night, Ethan whispered into the silence, "Maybe this is you, Lily. Maybe you sent her." He didn't know it yet, but the next day would bring answers he never expected, truth that would test his heart and change the course of his grief forever. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. The next morning broke soft and gray. A thin layer of fog drifted above the city streets, muting the world in silver. Ethan hadn't slept much. He'd spent the night replaying every moment. The glint of the necklace, Ava's fragile smile, the way her words seemed to echo Lily's voice. By sunrise, he was already packing groceries. Soup cans, fruit, bread, medicine. His assistant had called twice asking about meetings, but Ethan ignored them. For the first time in years, business could wait. He drove through the quieter side of town, the part he used to pass by without ever really seeing. The streets here told stories in peeling paint and broken fences. But to Ethan, they suddenly felt alive, like every crack was a reminder of how fragile and beautiful life could be. When he reached the narrow alley, Ava was sitting outside, drawing on the pavement with a stub of chalk. The necklace caught the light again, a faint shimmer in the morning mist. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "You came back." Ethan grinned, kneeling beside her. "Told you I would. What are you drawing?" "A house," she said proudly, "with a garden and a big window so the sun can come in." "That's a beautiful dream," he murmured. She tilted her head. "You can come live there too if you want. There's room." Ethan chuckled softly. "You're too kind, Ava." Just then, her Nana appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a faded shawl. "Mr. Cole, isn't it?" she said, her voice frail but steady. "I didn't expect you so early." "I wanted to bring a few things," Ethan said, lifting the bags. "Hope you don't mind." The old woman's eyes softened as she took one look inside. "Medicine, fruits, bread. We don't know how to thank you." "You already did," he replied, "by letting me meet her." They invited him inside. The small room was dimly lit but tidy, a cot by the window, a small stove, and a picture frame turned face down on a shelf. The smell of tea and damp wood lingered in the air. Ava helped unpack the groceries while humming a tune, a song that made Ethan freeze. He knew that melody. Lily used to hum it while watering the garden. He turned to the grandmother. "That song she's humming, where did she learn it?" The woman blinked, a little startled. "That? Oh! Her mother used to sing it all the time. I never knew where she picked it up from." Ethan felt a chill climb up his spine. "Her mother, Grace, right." "Yes." "And she's gone." The woman nodded. "Passed away last year. Fever took her. Ava doesn't remember much, but she was a kind soul, always helping people. Funny thing, though, Grace said she once worked for a family years ago as a housekeeper. She never told me their name, but she said they changed her life." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Do you know where she worked?" The woman shook her head slowly. "All I know is the wife of that family gave her that necklace. Said it was a gift, a reminder that kindness should never stop moving." Ethan went still. The air around him thickened. That necklace, Lily's necklace, was given away. He leaned forward, voice barely a whisper. Did Grace ever mention the woman's name? The old lady thought for a long moment. Only once. She said her name was Lily. Ethan's hands trembled as he pressed them together. He could almost hear Lily's voice now, echoing through memory. "If I ever leave this world, make sure my kindness doesn't end with me." Ava looked up at him, puzzled. "You okay, mister?" He smiled faintly through tears. "Yeah, sweetheart. I think I'm finally okay." That night, Ethan sat alone in his car, parked outside their building. The city lights flickered like distant stars. He realized that maybe Lily hadn't vanished completely. Maybe her kindness had rippled out, reaching a little girl who now carried her memory without ever knowing her name. He decided right then that he wouldn't just help them once. He would make sure Ava and her grandmother had everything they needed, not as charity, but as a promise to the woman who taught him love was meant to be shared. Over the following weeks, Ethan became a quiet part of their lives. Each morning before work, he stopped by the small alleyway with groceries, fresh flowers, or books for Ava. At first, the neighbors whispered, wondering why a man in tailored suits would visit a rundown street every day. But soon, their curiosity softened into quiet admiration. He never flaunted his wealth. He didn't need to. The change in Ava's eyes was reward enough. She laughed more now, her cheeks rounder, her voice brighter. The necklace still hung around her neck, but now it seemed to shine with something new, peace instead of pain. One chilly afternoon, Ava was waiting on the curb when Ethan arrived. She waved excitedly, holding up a small paper she'd drawn on. "Look, I made something for you." Ethan took it carefully. It was a crayon sketch, a man, a little girl, and a woman made of light hovering above them with a heart between her hands. "That's us," she said proudly. "And that's my mummy watching." He stared at the drawing, throat tightening. The woman's face, soft, smiling, looked exactly like Lily. "She'd be proud of you," he whispered. Ava tilted her head. "Do you know her?" The question hit deeper than she could ever understand. Ethan smiled faintly. "I think I do, in a way." They spent the day together, feeding stray cats behind the bakery, laughing when the cats tried to steal Ava's sandwich. Ethan felt like he was healing through her laughter, like each giggle was sewing close another piece of his broken heart. But that evening, when he brought her home, Ava's grandmother looked weaker. Her cough was heavier, her hands trembling as she tried to pour tea. "Are you all right?" Ethan asked, concern lacing his voice. The old woman smiled faintly. "Just a bad spell. Don't worry about me." He frowned. "You should see a doctor." She shook her head. "Hospitals are expensive, Mr. Cole. We'll manage." Ethan glanced around the room. The medicine bottles were nearly empty. The electricity flickered weakly. He knew manage meant barely surviving. He leaned forward, gently but firmly. "I'll handle it. Don't say no. You've done enough for this world. It's time someone did something for you." Tears welled in her eyes. "You remind me of her," she whispered. "Grace?" "No," she said softly, looking toward the faded photo frame on the shelf, the one Ethan hadn't dared to turn over. "The woman who gave Grace that necklace. She came here once, years ago, said the world needed more kindness, and she wanted to start with us. Grace never forgot her." Ethan reached out, slowly lifting the photo frame. Behind the dust and cracks, he saw a picture of Grace standing beside Lily, his Lily, smiling under the sunlight of a garden he recognized. He exhaled sharply, tears filling his eyes. "That was my wife," he whispered. The old woman nodded knowingly. "I thought so. Grace said she'd never met anyone so kind." Ethan looked at Ava, playing with her teddy in the corner. "Then that kindness, it lives on through her." The grandmother smiled faintly, voice trembling. "Promise me you'll look after her when I can't." Ethan's breath caught. "Don't talk like that." "Please," she interrupted softly, gripping his hand. "She needs someone who won't see her as charity, but as family." He held her hand tightly. "You have my word." Later that night, Ethan sat in his car again, rain tracing paths down the windshield. He replayed her words, her trust, her fading strength. He knew he couldn't let time decide Ava's future. He had to act. He made the call the next morning. Doctors, private care, better housing. Everything in motion. Money could fix logistics, but what he really wanted was to fix hearts. When he visited that evening, Ava met him with worry in her eyes. "Nana's in bed. She's tired again." Ethan knelt down. "She'll be okay, sweetheart. I'm making sure of it." Ava nodded, then tugged his sleeve. "You promise?" "I promise," he said. But even as he spoke, a flicker of doubt passed through his chest, because sometimes even the richest promises can't buy more time. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. The following days blurred into quiet worry. Ethan visited every morning, bringing soup, medicine, and fresh sheets, but the grandmother's cough only worsened. The doctor he'd arranged came twice, leaving prescriptions and soft words that couldn't hide the truth. Her body was fading. Ava tried to stay strong, but her eyes told another story. She'd stopped drawing houses and gardens. Instead, she drew angels and stars. Every night, she sat by her grandmother's bedside, whispering prayers into the thin air. One evening, Ethan brought her favorite chocolate pastry. "For my little artist," he said with a smile, but she only shook her head. "Nana can't eat, so I don't want to." He crouched beside her. "Ava, it's okay to be scared, but your Nana would want you to eat and stay strong, right?" Her lip quivered. "She says she'll see Mommy soon. What if she leaves me too?" Ethan's heart broke. He sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the frail woman whose hand trembled as she reached for Ava's cheek. "Ava," she whispered, her voice fragile as candlelight. "You'll never be alone. You hear me? You have angels watching." Ethan looked away, blinking back tears. He knew that soon he might have to keep a promise that terrified him, to become the guardian of a child who had already lost too much. The next morning, the call came before sunrise. The nurse he'd hired sounded gentle but heavy. "Mr. Cole," she paused peacefully in her sleep. Ethan gripped the phone, silence consuming the room. For a long while, he couldn't move. His reflection stared back at him from the window. A man who'd built empires yet couldn't stop the one thing he feared most: loss. He drove straight to the apartment. The door was ajar, and the scent of tea still lingered. Ava sat on the floor, clutching her teddy and the necklace, eyes swollen from crying. "She's gone," she whispered. She didn't even say goodbye. Ethan knelt beside her, wrapping his arms around her trembling frame. "She did. Sweetheart," he murmured. "She said it every time she smiled at you." They stayed like that for a long time, a man who had lost his wife and a girl who had lost her world, bound together by grief and something unspoken. The days that followed were slow. Ethan arranged everything: the funeral, the paperwork, the small white flowers Ava said her Nana loved. He stood beside the grave, watching the earth fall softly onto the coffin, and whispered, "I'll keep my word." When the crowd left, only Ethan and Ava remained. She placed her tiny hand in his and looked up, eyes red but strong. "Where will I go now?" He bent down, brushing her hair back gently. "You'll come with me, okay? My house isn't as small as this one, but it's been too quiet. Maybe it's time it had laughter again." Ava hesitated. "But I don't have fancy clothes or toys." Ethan smiled. "Then we'll fill it with crayons and teddy bears instead." For the first time since the funeral, she smiled faintly. "Can I bring Nana's blanket?" "You can bring everything that reminds you of love," he said. That night, as she slept in the guest room of his vast home, surrounded by warmth and safety for the first time, Ethan stood by the door, watching her. The moonlight spilled across her face, catching the necklace that once belonged to Lily. He whispered into the still air, "You did this, didn't you, Lily? You found a way to send her to me." The next morning, Ava woke to the smell of pancakes. Ethan had burned half of them, but her laughter when she saw his clumsy attempts fill the house like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Can we eat outside?" she asked, her hair messy, her eyes still sleepy. "Sure," he said, handing her a plate. They sat in the garden Lily once adored. Flowers bloomed around them, swaying gently in the breeze. Ava looked up suddenly, pointing to a butterfly that landed near the necklace. "She used to love butterflies," Ethan said softly. Ava smiled. "Then maybe that's a saying good morning." He nodded, tears glimmering but unfallen. "Yeah, maybe it is." Weeks turned into months, and life began to find rhythm again. Slow, steady, gentle. Ava adjusted to the new house as if she had always belonged there. The laughter of a child filled spaces that had once echoed with silence. Ethan found himself changing too. The boardrooms no longer interested him. The cold language of profits and percentages felt hollow compared to the warmth of small hands tugging his sleeve every morning. "Mr. Ethan," Ava would say as she climbed onto a kitchen stool, "our pancakes always supposed to look funny on one side." He'd laugh, "Only when I make them." Their mornings became sacred, music playing softly, sunlight pouring through the curtains Lily once chose, and Ava humming the same tune Grace had taught her. Sometimes Ethan caught himself just watching, how her hair glowed in the light, how her innocence reminded him of everything Lily used to believe in. There were moments he could swear he felt Lily there, smiling through the breeze, proud of how far he had come. One evening, after dinner, Ava brought out a small wooden box she had kept beside her bed. "I found something," she said. Inside was a photograph, warm but still clear, a younger Grace standing in a garden, with Lily beside her, both laughing. "She told me once," Ava said softly, "that this lady gave her hope when she had nothing. She said the necklace was proof that good hearts never die. They just find new people." Ethan traced the edge of the photo, feeling tears prick his eyes. She was right, he whispered. Good hearts never die. He placed a picture on the mantel, beside one of him and Lily on their wedding day. The two photos together seemed to complete something, like two halves of a story finally meeting. That night, as rain pattered against the window, Ethan tucked Ava into bed. "Can you tell me a story?" she asked, clutching at Teddy. He smiled. "All right. Once upon a time, there was a man who had everything, but he forgot what love felt like until a little girl reminded him." Ava grinned sleepily. "Was the little girl me?" He brushed her hair back gently. "You're the best part of the story." She yawned, eyes heavy. "Then it has to have a happy ending." He hesitated. "It does," he said softly, "because love always finds a way home." After she drifted to sleep, Ethan walked through the quiet halls of his house. Every picture, every flower, every echo of laughter felt new again. For years, he had built walls to keep grief out, but somehow Ava had found the cracks and filled them with light. But one evening, as he sorted through Lily's old things in the attic, Ethan found the original jewelry box where the necklace had once been kept. Inside, beneath the soft velvet lining, was a folded letter in Lily's handwriting. His heart stuttered. He unfolded it carefully. "If you're reading this, it means the necklace found its way home. Maybe not to me, but to where it belongs. I always believed love should keep moving. Ethan, promise me you'll keep it alive, even when I'm gone. Find someone who needs it more than we ever did. That's how you'll keep me with you." Tears blurred his vision. He sat there for a long time, holding the letter against his chest. She had known. Somehow, Lily had known the necklace would travel, that it would touch another life before returning to him. He went downstairs quietly and stood by Ava's door. The moonlight fell across her face, peaceful, safe. He smiled through his tears. "You brought her back to me," he whispered. The next morning, Ava ran into the garden, chasing butterflies while Ethan watched from the porch. The necklace danced with every step, glinting like a heartbeat in motion. She stopped suddenly and turned to him, her laughter soft and pure. "Ethan, can we plant flower for Mommy and Nana here, so they can visit when the butterflies come?" Ethan nodded, throat thick with emotion. "We'll make a garden so beautiful that heaven will want to look down and smile." Ava beamed. "Then they'll know we're okay." "Yes," he said softly. "They'll know." Spring arrived quietly, bringing color back to every corner of Ethan's life. The garden Ava had planted bloomed in a riot of soft purples and golds. Each morning she watered the flowers with the same care her mother once gave to her, humming that familiar tune that had followed their story from the beginning. Ethan watched her from the porch, hands wrapped around a mug of tea. He'd traded business calls for school drop-offs, charity meetings for bedtime stories. The world he once built from marble and glass now felt richer because of laughter echoing through it. "Ethan!" Ava shouted, running toward him with muddy shoes. "Look, the first butterfly came today." He chuckled. "Then I guess they found our garden." She pointed at the delicate creature landing on one of the tulips. "Do you think they are really from heaven?" Ethan nodded softly. "I think they're messages, little reminders that love doesn't disappear. It just changes shape." Ava's eyes widened, full of the kind of wonder only children could carry. "Then Mommy and Nana must be talking a lot. Probably telling each other how proud they are," he said, smiling. Inside the house, a new sense of life hummed in every room. Ava's drawings now lined the walls, pictures of gardens, angels, and 3 figures holding hands under bright sun. In one of them, Lily stood beside Ava and Ethan, the same necklace glowing at her heart. That evening, Ava crawled up beside him on the couch. "Ethan, what happens when people stop being sad?" He looked down, curious. "Why do you ask that, sweetheart?" "Because I think you don't cry anymore," she said softly. "Not even when you look at her picture." Ethan thought about it. Maybe, when we stop crying, it doesn't mean we've forgotten. It just means love finally feels peaceful again. Ava nodded, her small voice calm. "Then I think you're healed now." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." Silence fell between them, warm and full. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the weight of grief lift, replaced by something lighter, gratitude, perhaps, or grace. He realized Lily hadn't just left him memories. She'd left him a mission. He began funding small homes for children like Ava, quiet places where kindness could grow. He named the program the Lily Foundation, not for legacy, but for love. Every wall, every playground, every bright corner carried a message Lily had written in her final letter. Keep love moving. Ava helped, too. She painted murals in the playrooms, always with butterflies hidden among the flowers. So they know love is still flying around, she'd say. Months later, at the foundation's opening ceremony, a crowd gathered, volunteers, families, children. Reporters called Ethan the man who gave his fortune away. But to him, the real wealth was standing beside him, wearing that same heart-shaped necklace, her small hand wrapped around his. When the speeches ended, Ava tugged his sleeve. "Can I say something too?" He smiled. "Of course." She walked up to the microphone, the crowd quieting as a tiny voice filled the air. "This place is for people who think they're alone," she said. "But they are not. Sometimes love just needs a little time to find them." Ethan's eyes filled. The crowd applauded softly, moved by her innocence, her truth. Later that night, as the lights dimmed and the guests left, Ethan stood in the garden of the new home. The air was still, scented with lilies and rain. He whispered to the wind, "We did it. Lily, she's safe. You can rest now." A soft breeze brushed past his face, gentle and warm. A single butterfly landed on the open plaque by the entrance, the words engraved there glimmering in moonlight. Love never dies, it just finds another heartbeat. Ava ran up beside him, smiling. "They found us again." He knelt, pulling her into a hug. "They always will." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the moon above them glowing like a watchful eye, the world vast and kind again. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, "I felt you." That night, when they returned home, the world outside was calm, the kind of calm that hums after storms have passed. Ava was half asleep in the back seat, the necklace glinting under the soft glow of the car's interior light. Ethan looked at her through the rearview mirror, a faint smile touching his lips. She looked peaceful, content, the kind of peace he hadn't seen on anyone's face since Lily. As he parked, Ava stirred and rubbed her eyes. "Are we home?" "Yes, sweetheart," Ethan whispered. "We're home." She yawned and leaned her head against his shoulder as they walked inside. He carried her to her room, tucked her in beneath her favorite blanket, the one that still smelled faintly of her grandmother's house, and kissed her forehead. "Sleep well, my brave girl," he murmured. In the quiet after she drifted off, Ethan wandered through the house, each room softly lit by the moon outside. The walls, once hollow with silence, now whispered with laughter, stories, and the faint echo of love that refused to fade. He paused before Lily's photograph on the mantel. Her eyes, caught forever in that tender smile, seemed to speak to him even now. "You kept your promise," he whispered. "You made sure love kept moving." He lit a single candle, placing it beneath her photo. The flame flickered, gentle, steady, casting shadows that danced like memories. Then he walked outside, into the garden Ava had built with her small hands and boundless faith. The flowers swayed in the evening breeze, each petal trembling as if listening. Ethan looked up at the sky, endless, dark, alive with stars, and spoke softly. "You were right. Lily, the heart doesn't stop loving. It just learns to love differently." He sat down on the stone bench beneath the willow tree. The night carried faint music, the city's heartbeat, a dog barking somewhere, a child's distant laughter. For the first time in years, Ethan felt no weight pressing on his chest. No ache, just warmth. The back door creaked. Ava padded out, her teddy dragging behind her. "You're not sleeping either?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. Ethan smiled. "Couldn't. The stars are too beautiful tonight." She sat beside him, resting her head against his arm. Nana used to say stars are windows where angels look through. He chuckled softly. "Then maybe they are watching us right now." Ava looked up, eyes wide. "Then we should wave." Together, they lifted their hands toward the sky, two silhouettes under an ocean of light, waving at unseen love that had somehow found its way home. After a long moment, Ava whispered, Ethan? Yes. Do you think Mommy and your Lily are friends now? He smiled through the ache that still lingered deep inside, not painful anymore, just tender. I think they've been friends for a very long time. Ava's eyes softened. Then maybe they sent us both the same necklace, so we'd find each other. He looked at her, truly looked, and felt his heart fill with something pure and steady. Maybe they did, he said quietly. She smiled sleepily. Then we were always meant to meet. Yes, Ethan whispered. Always. The two of them sat there until her breathing slowed, her head resting fully against his shoulder. Ethan stayed still, unwilling to move, afraid to break the fragile perfection of the moment. The candlelight flickered through the window, and a soft breeze carried a faint scent of lilies and rain. Somewhere in that breeze, he could almost hear Lily's voice, gentle, laughing, proud. You did it, Ethan. You learned to love again. He closed his eyes and let the words wash over him, not as sorrow but as peace. Tomorrow would bring more mornings filled with laughter, more gardens, more stories told under the sun. But tonight, under the silent blessing of the stars, everything finally made sense. Love had not ended. It had simply changed hands.